I want to start off by saying I'm not some 80-year-old gaming sage, nor am I a game developer or balancer, but I am a game addict. And I want to share my 002 cents on HyTale. Spoilers for HyTale and Vintage Story. I know nothing of the development behind this game, so take what I say with a grain of halite and know this is from a completely blind newcomer's perspective. HyTale has super potential. It rewards player exploration. Oh, you can just find that. For context, the green pickaxe and blue ingot are mid-game items. It has fantastic biome/animal interaction. Oh, it's hunting the boar. I got you, little buddy. Hello. I love attention to detail like that. Just look at this. The guards don't have weapons just for show. They use them. Cooking and consuming of said food, which rewards planning, and best of all, which I know some may not appreciate, is that it has rivers which actually lead someplace. Oh my gosh, there's a map. Holy crap. I'm not saying all rivers have to, but I love when rivers or bodies of water actually connect. It makes the world and therefore immersion so much easier and meaningful. It means I can build a cute little dock, fish from it, and if I follow it, it can actually lead me to new adventures. If it's a big river, you know, if it's a small one, then maybe not. Just take a look at this erosion in the land. At the northern end, we can see a pocket of water left, but we can assume this entire strip used to be running. So, either due to natural causes or something to do with the game's events and lore, the source of water has run dry. I do realize I could entirely be acting like your middle school English teacher, making philosophical meaning out of a breadcrumb someone forgot to eat, but this sort of interaction in the terrain generation, and I know, I'll sound like a broken record, simply makes the world feel connected, and well, a world. Everything I just mentioned are some of my key takeaways from what I enjoyed about HyTale. You ask someone else and I'm sure they'll have a different opinion. But for me, who has only recently started to love homesteading and enjoying smaller, sometimes even slower victories rather than the looking for and killing of a grand beast, that's where things begin to wane. And I do realize that this game, based off what I've experienced, isn't necessarily meant for players like me. At all. And I do realize this video may be unfair towards HyTale at moments because I'm not one for this game's target audience, which sounds a little stupid out loud, but let's continue. The weird thing about me not liking HyTale is that it's completely up my alley. For example, I can exterminatus this one-eyed guy and take his loot and his house and claim it as mine. But only a monster would do that. Get some iron on ya, thank you. I can literally trade Essence of Life for high-tier food, and I love farming, which, to my knowledge, is the most consistent way of getting Essence of Life. Absolute green flag for me, since farming is for more than just sustenance, it's a currency with these tree huggers. I do admit the eternal seeds were a bit confusing. I thought it was a bag full of infinite seeds, not an infinite plot. Oh, that crop is always eternal. But this one's not scratching an itch for me, and I think I'm only starting to understand why. HyTale emphasizes exploration and combat, which is great. Also, I say this because you can find what I assume is endgame loot such as thorium, cobalt, and adamantite ore, or ingots, or jokes, via exploring the ruins around the world. Sometimes you don't even have to fight the bad guys to get it, you just juke them and find that your biggest enemy, in my honest opinion, is your inventory and backpack space. Come on, my loot goblin urges are screaming at me to take everything. However, even though I like living a slower life, I do also really enjoy combat. I love the Vermin Darktide games, Diving for Democracy, Monster Fashion Hunter, Banner Diplomacy Barely Works Lord, Totally All Out War, Night Rain, and clearing out hordes of zombies in Louisville. Funnily enough, the only farming game I've actually played is Fave Farm. And no one ever played that game. But back on topic, I know I'm not going to be one of the players who are always going to be fighting and exploring. I am literally always the camp mom when it comes to co-op survival games, so you better listen, otherwise there'll be no food, buffs, or conveniently organized loot for you. You see, the issue is, if it wasn't obvious enough, I love farming, animals, and honestly, chores, or at least consistency. That's a bit hard to achieve with the game that encourages and rewards adventurous players, you know? The ones who are willing to spend hours fighting and looting, which I think wouldn't be so big of an issue if combat in HyTale just had a bit more oomph, you know? Maybe it's just me, but I want more visceral feeling combat, as in weight behind my swings and the audio to match. Now that I've said that, it seems like that's something I started to appreciate because of Monster Hunter and Elden Ring. Different video. But I won't pretend and say I spent 100 hours playing. It was more like 8, and at least 3 were spent mining because I love mining. I am a dwarf and I only found copper and iron in those hours. I walked around outside adventuring for like 10 minutes, put a few skeletons out of their misery, and found way better loot, which honestly did feel very rewarding for my efforts compared to mining, which there's nothing wrong with that. Again, fighting for your life and looting the corpses or chests of less fortunate souls as a foundation for a game is great and a fun gameplay loop. I don't know where I'm going with this, so I'm just gonna walk out of here. Now, you might be wondering when I'll connect Vintage Story to this, and don't worry, here's how. I think my love for the small things was only accentuated by Vintage Story, a game where those small victories, such as making your first stone spear to fight off a boar that's been bullying you ever since you spawned to you after you defeat it, you imprisoned his family so they'll forever become your primary source of meat for sausages. Or, something simpler like finding copper or, oh, I know, making your very first wheel of cheese, which to my surprise is done quite easily in HyTale. At least based off the recipe. I couldn't find a cow after 3 hours or so I gave up. These little victories though, They feel so good. You know how I just mentioned cheese both in HyTale and Vintage Story? Well, in Vintage Story, you need to get a female goat or sheep. Super easy, barely an inconvenience. Animal husbandry, gathering goats. Attempt 1. Oh my gosh, I'm actually gonna have cheese for once. Oh, I can see home. Don't you dare fall into the... Why, man? Why would you do... Don't do it! It needs to get pregnant. It has to have said kids so it can produce milk. But if this is your first generation of definitely not willingly captured goats or sheep, then there's a 66% chance of the animal attacking you after you just tried nabbing milk from its sensitive bits, and only after 3 generations will they no longer have a chance of attacking you when you try milking them. But they'll still run away from you unless it's a bighorn sheep, apparently. I only have goats, so I never know. That must be nice. Because only after generation 10, do they become passive towards the player overall. This applies to all animals you're trying to keep as part of your farm, by the way, and after saying all this out loud, maybe I should get checked for masochism. But the slow burn of the game only makes me appreciate the things I do and consume and use even more. Have you seen the process to make tools in Vintage Story? So immersive. But I won't veer us off topic, let's just talk about cheese instead. For example, putting said cheese into a very healthy meal comprised of nothing but dry-aged sausages and cheese, which I only made after multiple generations of me fighting goat mothers for their milk, which the children need more than me. I don't think I put that into a meal until I had my second cheese wheel, because I was so proud of that cheese wheel. It just took its first rose. Don't take my baby from me. Did I mention you have to curdle and age the cheese, which means I need to make pickled food? Don't even get me started on finding salt and pickle. But as of right now, breeding and raising animals isn't a feature. My dang lambs won't grow and others won't grow as well. And again, I know it's early access. I do know that not everything will be implemented yet. I just want my fellow homesteaders to know so they don't suffer like me. In farming, I don't know how I feel about certain seeds being locked behind a workbench level. It honestly kind of reminds me of Farmville. Anyone still play that game? Is it even still around? I have to go check. Okay, I'm playing on Facebook and apparently it's Farmville 3. What happened to 2? I didn't know there was a second one. What happened to the original? Yeah, story for a different time. In fact, I don't know if I like upgrades being applied to all the workbenches. All workbenches can be upgraded, and upgrading a workbench unlocks new recipes, which are then used for the next upgrade. It's not a bad system to help players know what to look for and prioritize on the next adventure. To me, however, it feels a bit too gamey. Instead of just leaving that there without offering a solution, I'm going to offer the solution I do prefer, which is having a crafting system which can be optimized or made more productive as the building blocks of that system grow larger or more advanced, which is still just throwing resources into upgrades, but in a more dynamic feeling way. For example, we've gone from storing food in clay pots and cool cellars to plastic or even glass Tupperware and electrically dependent fridges. Both function similarly, but the upgrade is organic. Workbench upgrades are fine, especially in simpler or fast-paced games, but in a role-playing game like HyTale, the simplicity feels like a missed opportunity. By the way, what I've been showing is the process of making, or if I may be so bold, crafting steel. The bricks I've showed you function as blocks in a cementation furnace, which can be built at level 1, but if you're willing to put in the work via exploring and finding all 4 unique resources instead of just 2, then you can jump straight to a maxed out furnace. You put in the work, you get an appropriate reward. Maybe that's my issue, being gatekept. And guess where cementation furnaces are from? Vintage Story. And I hope I'm not coming off as if I'm comparing the games. I'm not. Both games have their own identity. That's perfectly normal. That's fine. Actually, I don't want duplicates. Get out of here, duplicate copies. All I'm talking about is how Vintage Story ruined other games for me. The color palette has been my favorite thing about the game. Okay, back on topic. But Josh, you're literally playing a game. Why can't it be gamey? You ever have deer, rabbit, bear, boar, or heck, even squirrel? Or are you all just city kids? I don't know. Things you know are wild game, but when they're cooked perfectly, you can't even tell the difference. It's kind of like that. Or when you're doing the tutorial, but you don't even know you're doing the tutorial. That's what I mean. But okay, I hear ya. Game still has to cook in the oven, so it's not too gamey when we consume it. It's still not as overwhelming as Vintage Stories, I can't even really say tutorial, more like a textbook with dozens of chapters that'll probably have you write notes in the margins so you can piece together what sanity you have left as you read it while you're trying to undampen it because you were crying while reading it. Anyways, next topic, food. I really enjoy how the food in HyTale isn't just to fill a hunger meter. They also provide buffs, and as someone who just finished reading Dungeon Meshi, that highly appeals to me, like so much. Think about it. You ever been at a low point in life, had the best bite of food, and you're back on your feet? I genuinely think food impacts how we act in our daily lives. If we have 2 people in the same scenario, one starts off the day with a bowl of cereal, and the other starts off with a medium rare steak and a glass of wine, one's probably going to have a better day. I won't say which one, even if it's too early in the day for wine. Let me just grab that from them before they finish the bottle. It's meant as a combination with the steak. Yeah, alcoholic. In fact, take notes, Vintage Story. Food is more than a health boost. It's a lifestyle. But then again, having a good food variety in real life is similar to having a health boost. I like both systems. In fact, can we get both? I know there's a That one block game has a similar mod. As I'm editing this, I'm realizing maybe it's because HyTale's a sandbox, you know? I think that may be why I can't see myself staying in it for too long. Mainly because sandboxes are usually quite good or at least competent at a lot of things, such as building, lore, combat, terrain generation, destruction of said terrain. Sometimes even realism or complexity in whatever the sandbox's genre is, instead of just being great at one thing, which games like Darktide can get away with, or The Walking Dead. First game was great, by the way, and if you didn't choose Kenny in the second season, you're objectively wrong. And it just so happens that the things I enjoy the most are still being worked on in HyTale. Just move! I hate you. I really want you to know that. Contrary to what I've shown you, I actually do enjoy animal husbandry. Like, looking back, that guy... he sucks at hurting them. Even though I'm living my best life, I am also taking it, or at least what's left of it in some cases. Looking at you, my undead nemesis, combat is a bit underwhelming, I won't lie. Not as underwhelming as my baby vintage story, but you have different weapons, which means different playstyles and attack patterns. And as someone who played a bit of Chivalry 1 and a normal amount of Bannerlord, don't look at the hours please, I like that your movement can impact where the swing comes from. Don't know how in depth they'll go, but if an attacking swing from the right has less impact against a shield user whose shield is on their left because they're right-handed, that'd be pretty cool. But back to combat, you have knockback, you can block, and block mid-swing, which is a bit wild to me since commitment to a swing doesn't matter, and if PvP becomes a thing, then that's its own can of worms. But hey, the game's in early access. That's to be expected. What isn't to be expected is if the devs don't take anyone's advice and release the game as a full product, even though they know it's not one. I'm looking at you, my Steam library full of dead early access games. So how did Vintage Story, with its really basic combat, ruin it for me again? Well, it's because in Vintage Story, their vanilla combat, which I feel is understated, is that you can use a shield, right? But you can also hide behind that shield like a coward, I mean hero, and stab at whatever's in front of you. What's the trade-off? You can hardly see and you're slowed down to a snail's pace. I feel like I don't see enough games where you can viciously stab from behind a shield, which, to my basic knowledge of people poking each other with sharp sticks, was kind of the main point of bringing a shield. And with the 10 minutes of research I've done, that's what I've concluded. So, you know what? If you're an actual history person, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not gonna lie. I was more disappointed than I should have been that you can't do this on HyTale, but I can understand the balancing behind it. Also, if anyone's curious, I chose the mace as my primary weapon because hammer go bonk and bones go cronk. Last two things I wanted to talk about in depth are the biomes and terrain generation. I adore this game's color palette, I think I've already made that known, as well as the tiny interactions mobs will have with one another. I already showed the bear and pigs, but there's also skeleton patrols out and about at night. Enemies will also give you an oh sh*. Enemies will also give you an oh crap face when they spot you. Mice will apparently chase after cheese, which I really wanted to try, but I couldn't because, again, I looked for a cow for 3 hours to see if this was true and found cursed lands. I really enjoyed that little musical note. It really just gives you the vibe of this area. And a bone horse instead. This area was pretty cool, and I love that it implicates either someone screwed up and tainted the lands, or there's something sinister at work. Also, there's sewer chests. Freaking 20 out of 10 for sewer chests. I can still taste the poop. And there's birds. Oh my gosh, this adds so much to the atmosphere. Living skies are such a tiny detail, but add so much, so much. And no, I'm not including that one creature everyone voted for and is now the bane of our existence if we can't find a bed. We've only talked about the terrain, but there's more. The mine shafts and structures you can find on your travels make the world really feel lived in. Or at least, that it once was. And as someone who always loves taking in lore and trying to piece together little details into a bigger story, I already used that word. I opposite of hate that. So how has Vintage Story ruined HyTale for me? Well, to put it bluntly, it's imprisoned me and hasn't let me out until I stopped screaming and started to genuinely appreciate everything I did in game and even kind of in real life. Whether that be harvesting eggs from chickens who used to hate me and now worship me as their god, or when I'm wearing my bear plate armor and striking down heathens who don't believe in wallets and hammers. If you know, you know. Or maybe it's because I'm getting older and have learned to slow down just a bit. Not much, like 10% if we're talking extremities. But if there's one note I wanted to make sure got across in this video, it's that Vintage Story's progression just feels perfectly heavenly to me. And in achieving such a heavenly balance, it's not ruined what I feel progression should feel like in other games. In other words, that's how Vintage Story has ruined HyTale for me. However, I can say nothing but good job, HyTale. You're doing great, and I hope to see more from you in the future. And with that, I say thank you for watching with what precious time you have. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a like or even a subscribe. Yeah, you don't have to. Anyways, thank you to channel members Happy Shovel and Our Mater Tate. You are the height of my tail. And for everyone else, have a great rest of your day, and your night, and your morning, and your evening, and or midnight. Till next time, be safe.